Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and I'm not going to lie, I never thought I would ever agree with Betsy DeVos on anything. We come from two entirely different worlds. She's a billionaire. I'm a person who shills out for Patreon. Wink. No, but the point is I just don't like her politics. I don't like who she is as a person, but I actually stand with her on this. So today on Twitter, there was a big blow up under the tag Stop Betsy, which was all about her kind of pulling back. Not really kind of, she did. She pulled back on how Title IX has become weaponized on college campuses, and actually this is for the best. Now, a lot of people out there are really under the assumption that, this is going to enable rapists on college campuses because of the whole rape epidemic that you heard touted around for years, like the poorly sourced documentary The Hunting Ground, when in reality it's not an epidemic, it's a hysteria. While sexual assault on college campus happens, and it does, and it's horrible, and it never should, it was never to the numbers that they actually claimed. When you look at how it broke down, when you look at the statistics that Rain cited, the study that they used, how they collected their data, was never about actual assaults, either reported or not. It was the fear that you might one day get assaulted, and that is how they calculated their data. And that is how this entire hysteria happened. And that, hopefully, will be somewhat knocked away by her ending this particular BS with Title IX. So it says here, in a major speech assailing the deprivation of due process protections under the Obama administration, Secretary Betsy DeVos will vow to rein in the federal guidance on compelling colleges to adjudicate sexual assault disputes between students. Now, here's the thing with that is I think it was 2011, Obama, pushed the Title IX on college campuses, effectively telling them, if you don't enact this, if you don't make this a thing, you will lose federal funding. I mean, almost putting like a loaded gun in the hands of these colleges and say, you either use it on your students or you use it on yourself. Like, that is pretty much what they did. And as a result of that, we have seen many cases over the years of male students being accused of sexual assault they have been falsely accused of, and never given the due process to defend themselves. Kangaroo courts spring up at these college campuses and destroy the lives of young men and boys who have done nothing wrong. Now, that's not every case. That's not every case. And there are those out there who have committed acts of violence, sexual assault, rape, all that stuff, who have been busted, have been caught, and all that jazz, and that's good. But the key process here, the key thing people are mad about, is that it became weaponized, as the title of the article states, and it started taking away due process rights. And that's something that should never be taken away. It doesn't matter what the crime is. If you have been accused of something, you have the right to defend yourself. And under Title IX, you were never given that right. You were told that you could not, talk to the accuser in order to, ask them questions. You couldn't talk to friends in order to get witness statements. If you were accused, your hands were tied, and you might as well just start packing your bags to get the F off of campus. That's how bad it got. So her actually standing up to say she's going to rein this in is a very good thing for men on college campuses, who are, by the way, now overwhelmingly the minority on campuses. Another thing to consider. Now, Reason has obtained excerpts from her prepared remarks, which DeVos will deliver at George Mason University this afternoon. No one could accuse DeVos of pulling punches. Her speech accuses her predecessors of weaponizing federal regulations and turning them against students. A very astute point. The era of rule by letter is over, her speech says, referencing the Obama-era Education Department's infamous Dear Colleague letter, which fundamentally changed the way schools handle sexual misconduct issues. Through imitation and coercion, the failed system has clearly pushed schools to overreach, and they have. Time and time again, they have. And time again, people like me talk about those issues, and they fall upon deaf ears for the most part. Now, we have dedicated audiences that listen to what we have to say, that believe us because we're showing them actual evidence of a hysteria versus an epidemic. But then you look at the mainstream media that has been able to absolutely profit off of the hysteria that they helped create, and they don't want to change. They don't want to help fix the problem. They want to keep pushing this nonsense and further dividing people rather than bringing them together to solve an actual problem, which is sexual assault. The Dear Colleague letter was released on April 4th, 2011 by the Office for Civil Rights and Education Department sub-agency charged with ensuring federally funded schools comply with Title IX, which mandates equality between the sexes. The letter holds that sexual harassment and sexual violence are forms of gender inequality, and that it is thus the responsibility of colleges to vigorously investigate and adjudicate rape disputes rather than leaving such matters to the criminal justice system. Yeah, kangaroo court. You had a situation recently where a male student was accused of sexually harassing another gay student, gay male student, and that student ended up committing suicide. He thought his life was over, and this had most to do with the fact that the gay male student went to his colleague, his friend, who was a teacher, who was then put in charge of the Title IX accusation against, of the Title IX charge against the student. She advocated on the student's behalf. It's no, whatever third party. It's just people who are just levying these charges because they have been given that gun. The new guidance encourages, and in some cases requires, university administrators to neglect the rights of accused students. It specifies, for instance, that colleges should use a preponderance of the evidence standard for determining guilt. Officials need only be 51% sure an accusation is credible to expel an accused perpetrator. It also discourages officials from allowing students to cross-examine each other, because that might be too traumatizing for a survivor of sexual assault. Never mind that cross-examination is one of the best ways for an objective jury to determine who is telling the truth. Well, there's no jury, really, in these cases. Not really. You know, the fact that these students, these male students, are not allowed to cross-examine, as I mentioned before, they're not allowed to talk to witnesses to gather their statements to protect their case. And even after they get done with all this and they're expelled from school and they obtain a lawyer, and that lawyer determines that they've done nothing wrong, they're still fucked. The notion that a school must diminish due process rights to better serve the victim only creates more victims, DeVos' speech says. Absolutely. The problems with the Obama-era Title IX guidance are essentially threefold. First, it isn't obvious that Title IX, a one-sentence statute, could or should be read as having anything to do with violent crimes. Secondly, the guidance raises constitutional questions, since it appears to many civil libertarians that a federal agency was instructing public institutions to violate the due process guarantees of the Fifth Amendment. That isn't the only way guidance is legally suspect. The Office of Civil Rights never subjected it to public notice and comment, a process required by the Administrative Procedure Act. It also is unclear whether the letter dictates actually, whether the letter dictates actually carried by the force of law, or even though citizens of universities rewrote their sexual misconduct policies to get the feds off their back. Essentially, seeing what happened here is they were given kind of carte blanche, forced into it, and then they chose to just, screw over students. Screw over male students, let's be fair. That's what it is. It's nothing to do with gender inequality here. It's screwing over your male students. If not, you don't get federal funding. It was one of the worst things to come out of the Obama administration. It's one of the things that I will never, ever, ever agree with him on. And I'm glad to see that this administration is in fact striking that down. Finally, since the guidance is legally dicey, it led to lawsuits left and right. Many students who were found responsible for sexual misconduct under the new guidelines have filed suits against their universities, and a non-trivial number of them have prevailed in court. On that front, DeVos couldn't have picked a better campus to deliver her speech. A GMU student, John Doe, was expelled for engaging in BDSM sex that the university judged non-consensual. He later sued GMU and won, since it was obvious to a Virginia district court that the administration's investigation was biased against Doe and had deprived him of his due process rights. And the really sad thing about this, truly the sad thing about this is, we're having an argument here over due process and whether or not it should be allowed. And that is the problem here when it comes to the politics of this situation. You have people on the left that are screaming that this is going to only benefit rapists on campus. Never mind all of the cases where the Title IX has been used inappropriately, right? And then everything else. They don't care about any of that because it destroys a narrative. It's one of the things that is driving more and more people towards either centrism or even maybe being moderately conservative. I know many people who were liberal up to a time, who have gotten so disillusioned with the liberals lately that they are looking at things from maybe the other perspective because they're not as crazy over here. It's really sad that this is where we are. It has become apparent To many fair-minded legal experts, the American Association of University Professors, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, and several members of the Harvard University Law faculty, including President Obama's personal mentor Charles Ogletree, that the current situation is morally, legally, and practically untenable. Thankfully, DeVos' speech signals that she intends to do what the Education Department should have done in the first place 6.5 years ago, subject its guidance to public scrutiny. Yeah. I can't agree more with that statement. It should have been done. Obama, one of the first things Obama did, I think, in his re-election was sign the Violence Against Women and Girls Act, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, why not violence against men and boys? Like, why is there now this discriminatory policy that's, it's bigoted, really, towards one gender over another? And I said that back then, and I stand by that now. In Zoe Quinn's Gamergate book, she claims that I attack marginalized people. Oftentimes, my criticisms are levied at those who scream about equality, who howl to the heavens about equality, but never actually practice what they preach. Because it's not about equality; it's about superiority, and that's the problem with all of this. It's one of those things where it's like, you want people to be equal, you have to treat them as they're equal, and this Title IX did not treat men like they were equal. Male students had a target on their back from day one, and they had to worry about everything that they did in order to not be charged with it down the road. Now, the speech goes on to say, "We will seek public feedback and combine institutional knowledge, professional expertise, and the experiences of students to replace the current approach with a workable, effective, and fair system." I can't even remotely criticize that. That is something I agree with. Whether or not it will happen, I literally have no idea, but it's something that I hope will happen. Alcohol-fueled sexual assault is certainly a problem on college campuses, though misleading statistics disguise the fact that many drunken encounters are much messier than some would like to believe. But the existing legal regime, however well-intentioned it may be, just doesn't deliver justice. In her speech, DeVos plans to highlight the case of a woman who accused someone of rape when it was then required to play the role of the prosecutor at the hearing to determine whether he had indeed insulted her. Now, that one I haven't heard. And that's infuriating. Imagine someone accused you of stealing their car, and then you went to court, and they were the ones that were in charge of prosecuting it. It's like, what the fuck? How is this even a thing? Where's the impartial third party? Where are the people who know what they're talking about? How would this girl be able to fully cross-examine the situation? It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. Saying here, the current failed system left one student to fend for herself at a university disciplinary hearing. The speech says, without any legal training whatsoever, she had to prepare an opening statement, fix exhibits, and find witnesses. That sounds crazy, but it happened. The case is a perfect illustration of the problems that stem from educating rape in campus kangaroo courts. We owe it to victims and to the accused to provide a fairer system that actually achieves a measure of justice for all involved. She'll no doubt take flack for it, but DeVos is right to criticize the Obama administration's approach to college sexual assault, and she's right to reform an utterly dysfunctional system. And I'm really glad about that. I can't stress how much I'm glad about that. Those of you who have been around my channel for the past 5 years, you know I cover a lot of these subjects, and I'm very passionate about these subjects. I want there to be equality. If you have been accused of a sexual assault case, you should have to stand trial if there's enough evidence to support it. You also have a right, a civic duty, in my opinion, to defend yourself if you didn't do it. Too many times, the accused are told to don't defend yourself. Don't stand up for yourself. Because if you stand up for yourself, all you're doing is making it harder for true victims to come forward. When in fact, I truly believe that it's the exact opposite. When you make false accusations the way that many women on college campuses have made false accusations, what that does is that makes actual people, actual victims, afraid to come out and say something. And the reason why is because they're afraid they won't be taken seriously because of all the other times somebody has cried wolf. Hey guys, that wraps up this video. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so below. I love to read your guys' input. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. If you want to support the channel, there's the Amazon affiliate store, there's PayPal, there's Patreon, there's Bitcoin. And if you're bored and you want something else to watch, check out 3 Buck Theater up here. My name is Matt Jarbo. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a wonderful day. Peace out.